right, welcome everybody. My name is Richard Wilson. I'm the founder of Family Office Club. I started this investment community 18 years ago in 2007. So we've hosted 300 events now. So we hope not to bore you today, get through a lot of things. We have 5 amazing speakers. We have a speaker from a $1 billion plus family. We have multiple centimillionaires speaking today. We have someone who is one of the first 8 investors in a company that now manages $150 billion with 40,000 clients. And we have people from all different industries speaking on stage today. I think it'll be super helpful. And the point of today is to go through what is the formula that the ultra wealthy have used as basically super founders, super entrepreneurs typically, to scale their wealth, keep their wealth, structure deals, grow a company, have the right mindsets, mental models, deal negotiation strategies, deal structures, investment structures, and what are the traits of the most successful people in business who get to the level of wealth where a family office is required. We're going to go through all of that and more today. Each of the guest speakers has been asked to present at least 3 to 5 ideas. Some of them are going to present 7 to 10 ideas each. So just from them, you'll get close to 50 strategies. My job would be easier if I had just 50 slides for you today, but I have 115 slides to get through during my part of the talk. So far more than 50 ideas will come from me as well. And it's going to be like a Ritz-Carlton buffet. You're not expected to eat everything in front of you. You pick and choose what looks good to you, save a few croissants for later, and you'll be good to go, right? And so it's meant to be helpful for anyone who is a founder, an investor, helping run a family office, helping run a fund, developing real estate, looking for clients who are investors. It should be helpful for all of the above. So I appreciate you being here with us today. So throughout the day, feel free to raise your hand if you have questions, something you want to contribute to the room. Be much appreciated to make more interactive. This is a picture of a fireside chat that I did with Kevin Harrington. He's going to be at our event next month as well. He was on the first 2 seasons of Shark Tank. He was watching TV at night and saw it go black and created the infomercial. He then created Asking on TV and was the creator of that brand as well. He's closed over 1,000 joint venture negotiations and contracts. So there's a lot to learn from him. We're going to mention him later today. But basically, family offices are people that have won the game of business, or they're winning the game of business, or almost all founders unless they inherited the money. So a lot of times in our rooms, we have people here who are founders raising capital because they're developing real estate, they're in private equity, or they have their own company. Or they're here to allocate capital because they were a founder or they are one and they want to put their money to work, right? So that's the basis for a family office club. Sometimes people think of us and they're like, oh, do I need to raise money right now? Should I go to an investor club event? But the smarter way to think about this strategically, I think, is that you build relationships and some of those are planting seeds, and you want to plant seeds before you need to harvest the fruit, right? So if you want to raise capital anytime in the next 3 to 5 years, you should probably be planting seeds. And even if you never want to raise capital, you probably want ideas going into your head from decamillionaires, centimillionaires, billionaires, sharks from Shark Tank, heads of $1 billion family offices, people that have had $100 million exits. You can learn how to strategize, structure, vet deals, screen deals, negotiate deals. If you can get smarter in all of that, it doesn't really matter whether you need to raise capital or not. You're really just hanging out with the most successful people in business. That's what Family Office Club is all about. Many times people just see, oh, investor club. Do you need an investor club right now? But it's really like a surface level way of looking at it. You should be getting an ROI in 10 different ways. Family offices now manage $14 trillion. It's more than all of private equity and all of venture capital combined. But a lot of people have heard of private equity and venture capital. Still, a lot of people don't know what a family office is. And the space is only growing. And we have the #1 most visited website in the industry, familyoffices.com. We have more videos produced in the industry than all of our competitors combined on our YouTube channel, through our Family Office podcast. And we have 17.9 million members inside of our social media groups. Just on LinkedIn, we have over 15 million members. And in the month of January this year, there were 30,000 posts within those groups that got 100 million views on LinkedIn. So a lot of the deal flow and ideas we get and input we're getting is from social media. And then we take that digital funnel and we put together events like this, or events like the Super Summit next month. We'll have 850 people at the Super Summit, 125 speakers on stage. There'll be more people speaking on stage by a factor of 2 than are in this room here today. So it'll be a very busy event, very different than today. I already went through some of our strategic assets. One of them is billionaires.com. We're building the #1 source for billionaire mental models, strategies, structures, mindsets. And we've already gone deeper, I think, than anyone else on that. Instead of just tracking who the top billionaires are or who exists as one, we have an AI tool built off of every public talk ever given by a billionaire, over 1,050 different talks. And with that AI tool, which comes for free with your membership already, you can have it in talk mode and have a conversation with the collective wisdom of billionaires as you walk your dog. You can pitch it and get feedback. You can display your plans or say, only give me feedback from billionaires who've made their money in these 2 industries. That's what's most relevant to my business. And then it will give you insights based on quotes from billionaires and then reference what billionaire said what. So you know who's giving you that advice, and you know it's not just made up AI slop that's pretending to be billionaire insights. We also own capitalraising.com, investorclub.com, commercialrealestate.com, decamillionaires.com, centimillionaires.com, sovereignwealthfunds.com, and a bunch of domain names you don't want to hear me rattle off. But we're basically trying to build the #1 investor club globally. Out of 1,300 investor clubs in the world, there are 3 that host 30 or more events per year. And we're hosting 30 events next year. There's 2 other angel platforms that do. And then Techer 21 does a bunch of their own events as well, of course, and they're well respected. That's what we're trying to grow into. At familyoffices.com, you can see our event schedule. We have Q1 listed on there now. Q2 will be listed very soon. Our goal is to get that built out as fast as we can for you guys. Right now, what we have is targeted weeks. So as you're planning out your year next year, you can see where we're 90% likely to be booking venues or getting contracts negotiated for those weeks. So you know what's coming up. At this event or at our Super Summit next month or any podcast, conference, webinar you're ever on the rest of your life, obviously do full due diligence. We've had many cases where somebody meets somebody and because they met them through our event or heard them on stage or something, they made big assumptions and then invested $1 million plus with someone without doing any due diligence. And they just make big assumptions. So never do that. We're going to hear from Mark, who likes to do the opposite of that with the deep due diligence group. And so it's just an important reminder for any event we host. We always want to remind investors of that because it might be your first event with us. A little bit on me personally for 30 seconds. We went to Thailand this summer. So my whole family and I were in this rickshaw. Looks like I barely fit in there, but we like going to different countries, and we aim at Asia now that we're in the middle of the Pacific and Hawaii, based on Oahu. And then we went to Machu Picchu with 12 investors and my wife there. We like doing adventure trips across the Grand Canyon. We went to Everest Base Camp for my 40th birthday, where I got severe altitude sickness. So that was fun. I grew up in the Boy Scouts. My dad was Eagle Scout. My grandpa was Eagle Scout. And I grew up being brainwashed in a positive way with the values of the Boy Scouts. And then having 3 girls, I realized, oh, my girls are not being brainwashed in this positive way. So we came up with, first we had core values for my company, Family Office Club. And I realized that every family should have core values for your family. They should be above your kitchen table at home. You should punish and reward your kids based on your values, and it costs nothing. So why not have them, right? It's obvious for a company to have them, not so obvious for a family too. One thing when I was younger is that I learned how to program websites in high school by cold calling every computer company in the Yellow Pages that was in my city. I got a job making websites for Indian business owners in HTML and Notepad before Front Page and Dreamweaver existed or WordPress. And I used the $3,000 from that to buy Office Depot stock through an Edward Jones broker my parents set me up with, and then just to invest my own money. And I bought this car, which I thought was pretty fun. But then driving to another job, it was actually my first time trying to raise capital for a tech company. I got in a car wreck on the freeway. I was going 65 miles per hour and the car spun around a few times. Thought I was going to die. So I put my head into the steering wheel. I was like, yep, I'm dying right now. Didn't die. And basically after that point, I was like, what am I doing with my life? I need to get going and actually do something. So I ended up graduating early for my undergrad. And since then, just tried to move fast and get a lot done today. A big part of today is growing your financial IQ, your deal-making IQ, your business IQ. Lottery winners are 30% of them go bankrupt within 3 years. NFL athletes within 2 years, 20% of them are in financial distress after retiring. And what happens is that when you make a lot of money very quickly, you didn't learn the 100 little paper cut lessons of running a business, or sometimes hurt a lot more than a paper cut. You don't learn a whole bunch of little lessons. You have to learn big lessons. And then if your career is over or you only win the lottery once, maybe you don't get another shot, right? And so many people, if they inherit too much wealth, they end up losing it all. So if your financial IQ is not above your net worth, the world will aggressively fix that equation all around you. People will look to fix that for you, and they'll bring your net worth right back down to wherever your IQ is. And in today's world, 96% of consumers get a hacking or phishing attempt every week. If you're a business owner, I think it's every hour or every minute, right? Every day there's like, oh, here's the wire transfer details. Oh, here's your confirmation of extraction for your Coinbase account. Oh, call this number for this, right? Nonstop if you're a founder or if you're public at all. And so it's a daily test of your IQ of whether somebody is going to extract net worth from you to them. So that's part of today. That's why we want to learn things you might not need yet, so when the time comes, so you can benefit from the net. It's scientifically proven that what we take in drastically changes how we think, what we put out, right? You put quality in, you get quality out. Tony Robbins says the power of proximity is one of the most important things. He made $400 million off of one financial transaction by being in the right community, getting that transaction done. We have one chair up front here if anyone wants to sit right up front. Oh, another one here if anyone wants to sit here. Feel free to take these front 2 seats, and if anyone else has a chair next to them, please raise your hand. But the point of today and all of our events is that you're learning directly from super founders, entrepreneurs, people that manage $1 billion plus, who have just learned a lot of these lessons. And a common thread in our community is that we have a lot of decamillionaires who are members that are worth 10 million plus, or their goal is to be worth 10 million. And they see that as a realistic goal, or they're worth tens of billions of dollars, or much more in some cases. All of these people believe in collecting mental models your whole life, figuring out how to shift how you think, how to emulate others who are further down the path than you. And in the book, The Road Less Stupid, which is written by Keith here, he says that what most people are really bad at is thinking strategically. And Oxford Dictionary said last year that the word of the year was brain rot, because everybody is just flipping through X and TikTok and Instagram, constantly distracted, dings on their phone, can't just sit and focus. So what he says, you should go in a room with a notepad and pencil, no phone, no anything, and for 30 minutes straight minimum, just think about one question or one problem and just go super deep with 20 potential solutions. And he said nobody ever does that, and you will get much more done doing that. And every year, I think brain rot is just going to get worse and worse because the AI algorithms just get better at manipulating our brains and getting us quick dopamine hits of what crazy thing happened or what some politician said or what happened over here or there or some funny cat video, whatever, right? So anti-brain rot is being focused, strategic, and we're going to show you some antidotes for that here today. I like this quote: being average has never been so severely punished, and being excellent has never been worth so much. So I think that more and more, the world's moving so quickly that just like the centimillionaire Ken Newman said at our event 2 days ago in Dallas, he said, if the internal rate of change in your company is not faster than the rate of change in the world, then you're going to go downhill pretty quickly. So you need to be innovating and be agile internally to adjust to everything that's going on externally. All right, so I'm going to go through this first section, and then we have our first guest speaker, Mark, I believe, is going to be coming up, if I'm not mistaken. And I think you're really going to enjoy the guests today. This first section is something I never see spoken at investment conferences, really, and it's managing your mental state and your mindset. And I think this is more important than your strategy, actions you take, connections you have, capital, because you can have all of that. But if you have the wrong mental state, people are not going to want to be your connection anymore, and you might lose all of your capital. So you have to get this right. And what Tony Robbins taught me when I interviewed him for billionaires.com is that maybe you have your MBA, maybe you read a lot of books, or you listen to podcasts, and everyone's looking for new strategies, new things they should be doing. Maybe you've heard 4,900 strategies in your life, right? How many times have you listened to a full podcast or read a full book on just managing your emotional or mental state? Probably not very many times, like 4 times in your life or 0, if you're like most business people. And so what Tony says is that focusing some energy here, you're going to move the needle much more than just getting strategy number 4,915. Like that better be an amazing strategy to really move the needle after all the other strategies you've heard. So we're going to go through a couple of those here today. One saying about this is that pessimists are generally right, but optimists are the ones who make all the money. What Ray Dalio says is, do not let your emotions control your decisions. The most dangerous volatility is the volatility between your ears. We had Paul Hutchinson, who created The Sound of Freedom. He saved over 6,000 children from human slavery. And The Sound of Freedom did like $180 million from the box office. And he's gone on these rescue missions himself. And he started a real estate firm that brought in $10 billion of assets. But he said the most valuable real estate in the world is the 6 inches between your ears. So if that's not right, you'll lose everything, mess everything up. And I think that Warren Buffett said, until you control your emotions, do not expect to make money. So that's how important a lot of people think this is. Brad Jacobs has built multiple $1 billion plus organizations. He says all day long, there's incoming business. All day long, there's someone trying to tear you down for this, accuse you of that, attack you of this, take market share here, send you a threatening legal letter there. To say if you get beaten up by that, like you're not only going to be unhappy, you're not going to be successful. So you have to just expect that and know that it comes with the territory. These are some paradoxical ideas that I find really successful entrepreneurs typically have a lot of these in their mind. And then many times when I say things out loud, someone might say in a meeting, oh, but I thought you said yesterday that we're doing this. How do you expect us to do both? How are we supposed to be excellent if you're okay with some of these experiments not working out? But like Google's closed down 261 companies, but they're worth trillions of dollars. Doesn't mean they're perfect, but they expect excellence in execution and follow-up and project management and technology solutions. Another one is to be very patient on your vision becoming fully true, but take high action and be very decisive. Bezos says with 1 million employees, he's still very decisive and moves quickly. You have to value feedback, but ignore almost everyone on planet Earth. You really, like Ray Dalio said, you can't take everyone's opinion equally. You need to really be looking at who you're listening to, why you're listening to them, what subject you're listening to them on. And I think all of that matters a ton, but you want to be taking feedback in all the time, but at the same time, not treating that feedback equally. I saw a quote this morning from Hormozy, they bookmarked here. It said, normalize ignoring the opinions of people who have smaller dreams for your life than you do. You've probably spent 10,000 hours thinking about your business. Most people give you advice have spent less than 10,000 seconds thinking about your business. So, you have to take it like a massive grain of salt. Just like, okay, maybe, okay, and move on. And then the other thing is that you want to be studying all the best practices in your industry, all the trends, knowing what's happening, being informed. And like Ken Wilber, who wrote The History of Everything, which is a book, he's a philosopher, he said, everyone goes through being immature, adolescent, mature. You want to be mature in knowing all the best practices so you can be different in a unique way, right? Otherwise, you might try to be different and maybe you get lucky. But if you don't know how the industry works, you're probably not going to be the best at being anti-herd because you don't even understand why the herd is doing things or what people expect. You might even be different in a way that's worse than the herd. So that's important. Joe Williams is a co-founder of Keller Williams Real Estate. He's got 200,000 real estate agents within their firm. He says the path is in the math. And Bezos says once you have 70% of the math and the data, you just need to make a decision and go. And Zuckerberg says the biggest risk is not taking any risks. It's just sitting there. It's like, then you're for sure taking a big risk, right? And so I think that Bezos also says that his best decisions, even though he's analytical and wants data and wants write-up memos everyone reads before a meeting, his best decisions are made on his gut, not based on Excel. So I think that's important to hear as well. To manage your mental state, you really need to manage the inputs all around you, right? You need to manage energy vampires that suck your time. You need to manage bad deals you got into, bad partnerships, employees not a fit. Everyone in your team should be pointed in the same direction. Everyone's oar should be in the water. If not, they need to not be on the team anymore, right? Having negative friends, news inputs, etc. We're going to show you the way to do this faster in a minute here. But essentially what Tony was saying in the interview is that if someone meets with you, like I had breakfast with Pierre this morning, if someone meets with you and they're enjoyable to talk to and they're helpful and informative and authentic and genuine and they have abundance mindset, not scarcity, it's a totally different experience. Even if they do the exact same thing on planet Earth, if they're stressed out or anxious or all over the place, or they're stressing you out, if they're super high pressure trying to get you to do something, you don't even know who they are yet, or like whether they're really an expert in what they do yet, it completely changes the dynamic. And so many times people say, hey, who in the club would invest in my dental practice or in a mobile home park? And I say, well, we've got 10,000 registered investors in the club, about 1,000 active at any point in time. And many of them are open to investing in different areas. A lot of it's based on the trust and understanding your clear value add, and that seeing if there's some asymmetrical investment to be had there. But the reality is I'm not waving the mobile home park flag. Like, you need to be waving that flag and poking people with it. Like, I haven't pitched people here on whether you want a mobile home park. So you have to do it. But the deeper answer is really, I could present the exact same deal as that person, but if you say it in a way that builds trust and confidence and is super clear, and you give a single sentence of how you've done this 22 times before and 142 other investors have trusted you with it, and you connect with them on a personal level, they might be 10 times more likely to do that deal versus if you just say the bullet points of the deal, just present it in a dry way or pressure them and say, oh, we got to come in by next Friday, so we need to get on a call tomorrow and look at this together. Like, you probably zero people will invest if you say that to them, right? So that's the deeper challenge of running an investor club, is that people think by coming to the club, if you say, I've got the best deal you've ever seen, this is amazing, they think it's about the deal. It's not about the deal. Most investors would rather invest with someone who promises less, but they trust them 100%, and it's really transparent and it's well structured. Much rather work with that person than someone that promises the moon. The people that overpromise come off as amateur hour because there's no room to over deliver because they're massively over promising. So it's super important. In the first line of the documentary with called Arnold on Netflix, it's amazing. If you haven't seen it, you have to go see that. It's definitely worth your time. Arnold says that my advantage my whole life has been able to have a crystal clear vision of what I wanted to get done. And I just worked hard until it became real. And the first chapter of his book, that has 6 main principles in it, he says crystal clear vision is the number one. The number 2 is to work twice as hard as everyone else, but enjoy it way more than everyone else is too. We're going to give you a way to do that after Mark's talk. I'm going to go into how to work twice as hard as other people and have more fun every day that you're doing it. And no one can compete with you if you do that. Most people do not have a crystal clear vision. They don't think about being in peak mental state most of the time. If you watch pro athlete documentaries, whether you're watching Drive to Survive, you watch Verstappen, or you watch Breakpoint or Sprint, or any number of pro athlete documentaries, it's oftentimes a mental game that gets you to win. It is bouncing back from things 5 minutes later. But in sports, many times you lose a few tennis points, you lose the whole match. You lose a couple of F1 races, or you win a couple, and now everyone gets out of Verstappen's way when he comes around the corner, because he's just going to run into you if you don't get out of his way, right? So a lot of it is the mental game. Family offices in general, they want to play long-term games with long-term people. They do not care that your piece of paper says 92% IRR, right? Anyone can put anything on a piece of paper. It's completely meaningless, even more so than 2 years ago. You need to have courage as a CEO to build wealth. Ray Dalio says you'll never be wealthy if you're never aggressive, and you'll never keep the wealth if you're never defensive. So you have to be both aggressive in some cases and defensive in others. Dan Martell says life is more fun when you realize you don't need other people to like you. Like, you can't try to please everybody, right? Peter Thiel says what you believe is true that most other people do not agree with, and you have to have the courage to move forward on that. If you're always following the herd, you'll be copying the average, basically. Bezos says that if you find yourself stressed about something, most of that stress is simply not taking action on a problem that you know exists. And once you take action on it, 80% of the stress goes away. And Dan Sullivan says that if you have a problem, come up with an action plan and know that problem is just a project. Then you just need to work that project. These are all things related to mental state. Some of us, all have different challenges on what we need to work on, but I just feel like it's not talked about quite enough. But at the end of the day, investors are looking for asymmetrical, like elephant hunting. They want to know, okay, how can I get great returns, but my downside is half or 70% protected? So this is much better than the average deal that promises me the moon and has no downside protection. At the end of the day, the investors are looking at that equation all the time. The most successful people I know in business have this immunity to being emotionally connected to something they've been doing a long time. They might put a lot of time or even money into something, but it's just a negative return. You just need to cut that off because it's stopping you from making more progress in other areas. So thinking to yourself what you're doing that you should not be doing anymore, that just makes your life harder, or clients that are 2% of your revenue but take up 20% of your time. Those might be clients where it's time to find another home for them. And Matt Fraser won the CrossFit World Championships 5 years in a row. He won by like 20, 30% plus, and he basically just got bored winning. I think the sport probably paid him to retire because it just made it so nobody really was interested in the championships because he just blew everyone away by such a massive degree. But he said multiple times, it wasn't because I was stronger. It wasn't because I was faster. It was because at some point we all hit the wall, and then you still need to be able to push beyond that. It was pushing beyond the physical limits that everybody has, that he was able to win. And it's not fun to do that if you're not doing something you don't enjoy, you don't have a natural advantage on it. It makes it much harder. I think it's also not as easy if you're not having fun, right? And this is not about go on vacation your whole life. It's how do you have the most fun year of your life because you're only working on exciting things, exponential things that could rapidly grow and compound, and not linear ideas that just grow little bit by little bit. So this is the strategy on how to make sure that your mental state stays where it should be most of the time, that you bounce back faster, that you keep your goals in mind, that you don't get distracted as much. And the problem in today's world is everybody is trying to program your prefrontal cortex. The algorithms on your X or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok app, they're all trying to associate a smile with Coca-Cola, or tell you what the norm in society is, whether it's IDs should be needed for voting or not. And everyone's thinking that way, so you should too. Whether it's business, politics, branding, marketing, what conference to go to, right? Everyone's trying to influence what ideas are in front of your brain. And the decision-making center of your brain is being influenced by everyone around you, but probably not massively influenced by yourself. You influence that you're here in the room today. You choose what books to read, what podcasts to listen to, what friends to hang out with. But the AI algorithms are getting smarter every day on influencing you and inputting ideas into your mind to make you think that something is the norm. And it's very easy to do that on a mass scale on 20 different accounts. So things slowly drip on anyone who's in a top 1% zip code, certain ideas about a brand, a thought, and it looks like genuine, authentic opinions in little pieces that add commentary. But it's done to manipulate you. And so what you need to do is manipulate yourself, because the limbic part of your brain is fight or flight. But the front cortex of your brain is really related to goal setting, habit forming, working towards goals, willpower, getting things done, having agency, emotional regulation. That's all the frontal cortex of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. So what we recommend is giving your prefrontal cortex a bath early in the morning and just soaking it with where you want to go and what you're trying to do. And you have all these slides in your welcome email that went out this morning at like 7 a.m. or so. You also in your welcome email have a link to an Investor Club Radar AI tool that has a LinkedIn profile scrape and deep research on everyone in the room and their contacts. So you can see who in the room has things in common with you, describe who you are, and it will help provide 15 suggestions of people to chat with today. You can see their LinkedIn profile and see their face. But basically, the top part of your one pager that you should laminate and read every day when you're brushing your teeth or shaving or whenever you want to do it, is basically your map. So I like going on like outdoor adventures. You could see it as, okay, I want to hike over to that ridge, and then we're going to go over to the ocean, and then we're going to go to that summit. Like, this is my map for monthly, quarterly, annual goals. You might have a theme at the top of just do it, or extreme focus, or family, or be ultra healthy. You might have a reminder, be the best dad or father or wife possible, etc. But the top part of it is a map. Where are you going? And every day a reminder of where you're going. After that are all these mental programming statements, such as have a crystal clear vision with ruthless execution, or clarity multiplies action, or one of the other ones here is what is critical, go deep and ignore everything else. Drop mass to gain velocity. It's like a rule in physics, basically. So by reminding yourself of how you want to get there, I think it can be much more successful, consistent. We had somebody at our event in Dallas that said they started this 3 months ago, and now their company has grown by 20% since then, which is the fastest growth rate they've ever had, just by reading this in the morning. It costs you nothing. You don't need to pay me or anyone else to create this. I don't hear of anyone else doing this. And this shows how powerful it is. The whole health industry, $900 billion, 90,000 books written on it, can all be summarized with one book with just 3 pages, repeated over 90 times, that basically says, move your body around a bunch, sleep 7 to 8 hours, and eat food that's not pumped with chemicals and hasn't been through a machine. Not a single person in this room probably does those 3 things. Not 30 days in a row, not a year in a row, right? You are a superhuman. If you do, I want to talk to you before you leave today and ask how the hell you did that so I can do it. If I could pay $100,000 and have the ability to pull that off, I would do it, right? And so something I'm still working on myself, and that's the whole point. We all know what we probably should be doing, and you collect little tidbits from a billionaire fireside chat, from a book, from a podcast. But where do you store that idea? And you tell yourself, oh yeah, I got to do that. I have to do that more often. This is where you store it, and I update it every month for myself. I also travel with it. I read it each morning. It's my version of it right here. And basically, what you do is put your monthly, quarterly, annual goals at the top, like I mentioned. This are all your mental programming statements. If you want to put like virtual advisory board people that you want to emulate, or you'd seek advice from, or you want to be like in one very specific way, put them on here. Jeff Hoffman said he became a billionaire and created the airport check-in kiosk, and then was one of the first investors in Priceline.com because he loved travel. So he had sticky notes on his mirror where he brushed his teeth every morning. And that's one of the reasons he became a billionaire, is because of that focus. He knew where he was going. And he's spoken twice at our events. I don't see anyone crying right now. I doubt anyone's going to be made to cry today, but he had half of a 800-person ballroom in tears the first time he spoke. And you can see the talk on billionaires.com. It's probably the #1 talk we've had on stage out of 1,500 people. So you can stream that at billionaires.com if you want to sometime. So I would just encourage you, in the welcome email, there was a Word document template of my old one-liners, the new ones I use. You can just delete all of those. It's supposed to be for you. You can steal half of them if you want. It doesn't make a difference to us. But you should have things on there that shows this is where I'm going, short, medium, long term. This is how I want to get there. And you know it's inevitable that if you just did these things more often, maybe not every day, but if you just did these more often, and your mind worked like this, and your focus was here, and you acted more on these ideas, you'd be amazingly more successful, more productive. That way, you are self-influencing your prefrontal cortex to focus on certain goals, form certain habits, be more consistent, shield and say no to things rapidly that are obviously not a fit with anything you wrote down on this piece of paper. So essentially, Deep Due Diligence Club, we have an online forum. You can post questions, deals you've sourced from your local network to the online forum on mobile app. You can chat through there. You can use AI tools through there. It's about $1,500 to join. It's $40-some a month to stay a member. It's not crazy expensive. It's just people that are high net worth investors that if they see something interesting, and then 3, 5, or 10 members out of the 50 plus, I go deep on due diligence together. So you're not all by yourself figuring out what you should invest in. So if you're an investor and you're interested, talk to Mark while you're here. My last section was on managing your mental state and mental models. And before I move on to that, Bruce Lee had a saying that if you let somebody's words throw off your emotions or your day, then anybody's words at any time can control you. So you have to not allow that. That's why it says calm is a superpower. And Winston Churchill said that on your way to the destination, there's many dogs that will bark at you. And if you stop to bark back at each one, you'll never make it to your destination. So it's just something to keep in mind. Also, Zuckerberg says that being indecisive is a decision to do nothing. And it might be the most risky decision. That's what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned his quote. And it was like almost exact same of what Eric said at one of our events. I think it was in Hawaii. He was on stage or one event. He said, not investing in Bitcoin is a passive investment in fiat that for sure loses value. It's a for sure losing investment. It just makes you think about things differently. Like, what are you deciding on by being indecisive, right? There's still a decision being made there. Don't forget to take notes throughout the day on the worksheets provided at the back of your workbook. If you flip to the very end, you'll see some broken out sections to help you take notes on different subjects. A page before that is a notes page. The page before that is a note-taking section for each guest speaker. So if you've got something from Mark there, reading every word of a PPM, doing due diligence with some sort of peers, whether it's within the Deep Due Diligence Club or otherwise, then make sure you take some notes there. Our hope is that when you leave, you've got 1 to 3 pages of notes and you've got 5 clear things you can put into place right now. Like the prefrontal cortex tool might be one of them. Something related to mindset, mental models, etc. might be one of them. So I'm going to go through this section for this morning on the playing the game of Monopoly, and then we're going to have Vincy Purdue come up next, who's from the Purdue Chicken family and the Sheraton Hotel family, and she's going to share some insights with you, which I know you'll enjoy. So in college, I played digital poker, and I played on 12 poker tables at a time, and I would just fold every hand unless it was a top 1% hand. It worked out decently well. You didn't have to be that good at poker. You just had to know what the top 1% hands were. There was only like 12 different combinations. You just folded everything else. And in business, it's a surprisingly simple concept as well. Only play in games you can win. I was just watching the newest Matrix from 2021, and basically in like one thing in the first original Matrix, one of the most famous comments was like, I know Kung Fu, after he's been like trained or whatever, and they injected Kung Fu into his brain. Well, the Sun Tzu Art of War book is way out of copyright. And so what we did is took the original manuscript of Sun Tzu, modern interpretations, past interpretations, everything we could find in deep research related to Sun Tzu, created new emerging content from that. And one of our 57 AI tools is I Know Sun Tzu. And you can go into talk mode, have a conversation with what he wrote and what people have said about it. And one of the most famous things that he said is that you should not enter a battlefield unless you've already won. Like, don't start a fight you can't win. And in business, that's important, right? So you want to only play the game of Monopoly and figure that out. Peter Thiel says you should start with the market so small, no one else cares about it. You have 0 competitors, ideally. At most, you should probably have 1 to 3 or 5 competitors. He also says if you find yourself in direct competition, you've really screwed up. Someone made some really bad decisions along the way. If you're slogging it out with hundreds of competitors, like that was not smart. And then the saying goes that if you want to beat Mike Tyson, I guarantee you can beat him if you compete with him on putting together a pitch deck, right? If you're not boxing with him. So don't play the game with someone who has far more races, far more experience, far more focus. I asked Pierre this morning, I said, well, what makes a difference if you're ultra wealthy clients that you work with and multi-generational families? He's from the DuPont chemical family. And he said, hard work, persistent hard work. Nobody wants to do that, essentially. It's rare to have persistent hard work. And I think that is what we're going to be talking about in this section. Rockefeller said that competition is a sin. One of my favorite quotes is that clarity multiplies action. I read this every single morning on my one-pager. I'd recommend you do too, because it works in both directions. If you are pitching Peter from Pulcinelli to get something to OpenAI or to Elon, or you're pitching a publicly traded company or a $100 million family you meet at our Super Summit next month, if your pitch is not clear, that counterparty is not going to take action. So they have no idea what you're even doing. They have no idea what you want or what your expertise is. The more clear your position is, the more you attract special deal flow, the more you get special terms, you get better valuations, et cetera, right? If somebody had a chemical process technology invention with a deep due diligence club and someone's brother-in-law created this magical thing, they would go straight to Mark. They'd be like, oh, biggest chemical super uber nerd I know in that niche, super smart. Like, you want to show it to him first, and you give him better deal terms because of his strategic value. He can help open doors. He can help de-risk the process. He knows what questions to ask. I wouldn't know what questions to ask, right? So you need to be super clear about who you are, what you're doing, what you're asking. And that is external on how you attract business and get more done. But if you want to get more done yourself and manage your own mental state better, you need to be super clear on where you're going, what you're doing, what you put up with, what your level of excellence expectation is with yourself. What are your habits? How should your mind work? What are you doing this month to help what you're trying to do long term? The more clear you are with yourself, the more you'll multiply your own action. And I studied influence and persuasion for well over a decade, probably much deeper than anyone here in this room. I've interviewed Dr. Robert Cialdini myself on my YouTube channel. I've read all of his books. I've listened to multiple interviews with him. After earning my MBA, I studied psychology through the Harvard Extension School and studied psychology of influence under Dr. Woolman there. I did my master's thesis on influence and persuasion. And I say all of that to add more weight to the most influential thing you can do is learn how to influence yourself. People who can influence their own actions and behavior than other people are much more influenced by them. If you try to influence other people and you don't look like you have your own act together, then nobody listens to what you say. Hormozy says you should build something so credible it feels inevitable. And when people are doing 19 things, it's not as credible, right? You can't be an expert in 19 things. So clarity multiplies action. It's basically like a say is family office physics. It's business physics. How do you gain momentum? How do you build wealth? How do you keep your wealth? And, Elon says basically everything follows the laws of physics. Everything else is just a suggestion. He also says that if you suggest you're going to do something that breaks the laws of physics or family office physics, either you're going to win the Nobel Prize or you're wrong. So keep that in mind. So one lesson from physics is that if you have a certain amount of force and it's spread over a massive area, the actual pressure is not very much. There's not much pressure felt on any one area if you're focused on 12 things or 7 things. And so if you want to increase pressure, you need to reduce the area that you're concentrating your energy in. I don't care if you've got the best mindset or like Meta World Peace, who is also known as Ron Artest, who won the LA Lakers World Championship, played with Kobe, played against Michael Jordan. He spoke at our event on Monday, and he talked about how he trained 7 hours a day, and he had elite fitness, and that's why he was amazing on defense. So he wasn't best at scoring, but he could out-hustle everybody on the court in the league, and he would keep all-stars to 0 points, 7 points per game, and he was very proud of that. He had an amazing amount of force. Same with Lamar, who played in the NFL for 9 years, spoke at our event on Tuesday this week. That guy has got a lot of force for sure. But the point is that you can have the mindset of Matt Fraser, who won the world championships of CrossFit, equivalent in business, energy and motivation and willpower. But if you're diluted, it's not going to get much done. So a little child with a very sharp knife is going to be able to cut through something better than an adult with a super dull object, right? It can still be dangerous with little resources if you're super focused. Peter Thiel says that extreme focus is a superpower because nobody wants to do it. And if you're very large with 10,000 employees, you can't do it. You can't be known just for X because you also have all these other products that need to keep on going to employ everybody and keep the revenues up, et cetera. And the challenging for us as founders or investors is you have to get better at saying no every quarter and every year. Because you probably right now have more LLCs today than you had 5 years ago. You probably have more K1s, probably more employees, probably more social media followers. There's just more stuff coming at you than 5 years ago. But even if that wasn't true, you're hopefully building a reputation and getting better quality deals this year than you did last year or 5 years ago. And because the deal quality is better, things you would have said yes to last year, now you have to say no to because you're more busy. And so you have to keep on upping your standards, upping what you say no to, how you say no, how you manage your time. We're going to go through high velocity strategies after lunch, and I'm going to tell you how my centimillionaire clients save time. And I think the best investment of your time is to figure out how to save 100 hours of your time, right? So that's going to be that section after lunch, one of the 4 sections after lunch. Warren and Munger say the difference between ultra successful and just successful people is that the ultra successful say no to almost everything. And they say that we've done better because we've done less. Warren also says it's not about how broad your circle of competence is. It's how clear the perimeter is. You don't go outside the things that you know. And Brad Jacobs says most problems don't matter. Marcus Aurelius said you don't need to opinion on everything. Like, don't act like you need to be the expert on all these different areas. And then addition by subtraction is really about cutting ruthlessly and 10x what works and ignore everything else. So if you want to play the game of Monopoly, it is being super focused, extremely focused in a way that might even be painful. Steve Jobs says that if you say no to things you didn't want to do, you're not really prioritizing. You're just patting yourself in the back for doing nothing. It's not really an accomplishment. If you want to prioritize, what it really means is that you are thinking of things that you know would make you a lot of money, that you really want to do, but you say no to them, even though you wake up every day just knowing in your gut that it could make you money, and you don't do it because you've already dedicated yourself to doing X. And that's where the value of prioritization comes in, because otherwise you're saying no to things you already were going to say no to, and then there's no real decision being made there to cut something off. Oracle's founder, Larry Ellison, multi-billionaire, that Peter was just mentioning, said that there are usually 1 to 5 things that are important, and you have to ignore everything else. If you try to reply to 1,000 emails coming at you, you're never going to get anything done. You also have to be bold. You have to try things, even if you know they may not work. Grant Cardone's spoken at a few of our super summits. He says to be obsessed or be average. And David Goggins always says to be uncommon among uncommon. I mean, that's basically having a family office, not just being a founder that makes it, that gets to 3, 5, 10 million in revenue or tens of millions in net worth. And Ron Burkle says that deal flow is the currency of influence. This is something I see a lot of people get wrong. Everyone always comes to me and says, oh, well, I have amazing deal flow. I don't need deal flow. I just need investors. I'm just short on investors. But if your deal flow was 0.01%, amazing, people would refer others to it before they'd even put $1 in themselves, because it's so mind-blowing. You can't even believe it's real. You want to see it in person. You want to confirm, do all your due diligence. But between the structure and the asymmetrical return possibilities, it just looks amazing. And I think that anyone can go to LoopNet and they have more deal flow than they have capital instantly. But everyone always says, I can get $1 billion a month done if I could get in front of enough investors. But the deal has to not look just good to you. It has to look amazing to the person getting 1,000 times your deal flow. Like you heard Mark say, it went from 40 deals a year to 400, right? Some people, probably even in this room, see 400 deals maybe a month or a quarter, right? So it needs to look amazing to people that see thousands and thousands of deals. And that's very hard to do. And that is why deal flow is a currency of influence more than people know. They think they need one thing. What they really need is many things. And we're going to show after lunch a slide of what some of those are. So if you're trying to figure out what game of Monopoly you should be playing, there's this hedgehog strategy concept, Jim Collins. And it says you can focus on your DNA, what you're naturally good at, where you can make a lot of money, and what you're passionate about. If you don't do this, you might be passionate and work hard. You might have a natural advantage. But if it doesn't make money, you can't hire people, can't grow it, can't scale it. You're never going to be able to compete, really. And if you're making a lot of money and it leverages your natural advantages, you might get away with not even having to work full-time on it because you're naturally good at making money. But then someone who's passionate and has these two advantages are just going to run circles around you. They're going to work on the airplane ride home tonight while you're streaming The Matrix. They're going to go the extra mile. They're going to return the call the same day. They're going to text back the lead right away. They're going to do the extra white paper, the extra talk on stage, all of that. And what I found is if you focus on where there's the lowest competition, the most future demand that plays off your biggest strengths, then you're going to be positioned very well. Then you're playing a game of Monopoly. In the investor club world, the next largest investor club has 2 million in social media. We have 17.9 million, so my goal is to hit 100 million. We have the most practical, easy to use, pre-trained AI tools right now in the space. And billionaires.com has more public interviews with billionaires plus the AI tool. And then we're analyzing and reading every book authored by billionaires. And I don't see any other investor clubs on planet Earth playing that game. And that's how we're trying to play a game of Monopoly in the investor club space. We also bought investorclub.com and other digital assets to help us get there. So I think whenever you see someone talk on stage, you have to think, are they trying to sell me an insurance policy right now? Are they trying to sell me something? Or are they just saying what they genuinely think, what they genuinely do? And the goal today is give you as much value as possible so that you like being part of the club, and then you want to spread the word about it and be here for years to come. So the family office industry really exists because of this. Entrepreneurs generally don't work for 30 years, sell their company, and then say, here you go, Goldman Sachs, charge me your fees, don't mess it up too bad, diversify me, I'm just gonna go sell at the beach and do nothing. Usually it's just not how they are. Usually people want a family office solution because they want somebody who's gonna help them with mass diversification. So they can't mess it up, can't lose their wealth. Help them plan things in their life, passive income planning, etc. And they might trust that with one group or two or three. Then they invest into real estate in the second area typically. And then they're usually playing offense in one area. If they make their money in real estate, their offensive game might be in real estate. But oftentimes it's in auto dealerships or auto parts or stem cell centers, wherever they want to make their offensive play in. But the whole point of playing a game of Monopoly is figuring out, like in City Slickers, Billy Crystal asked Krusty, what's the secret to life? And then he holds up his pinky. And Billy Crystal's like, your pinky is the secret to life? He's like, no, it's one thing. And he's like, well, tell me the one thing. He's like, well, you have to go figure that out for yourself. It's unique for you. I can't tell you what your one thing is. And for Jeff Hoffman, it was traveling to 130 countries and having a dinner at the dinner table at the home with 130 families in 130 countries was his goal. And he got there in part because of inventing the airport check-in kiosk, because he was obsessed with travel, and then became a billionaire because of it. So family offices exist so they can have their own adventure, do what they want, have someone play defense, diversify assets, plan things out, be more holistic, and then put the energy into their offensive game or into whatever they want. They can play golf, they can sit on the beach, all the above. So I think that's important when you're in business, to figure out what unique game you want to play that nobody else is playing, because you're way more likely to win. And then you're making up the rules, you're keeping the score, and you're making progress in ways that others can't see. Jay Abraham often says the real business is the business within your business that others can't even see. And Dan Kennedy often says you should have a business that's like an octopus, and people think you're making money here, but you're really making money over here and here. And it's pretty hard to replicate what you have, because almost none of it is public, and people make big assumptions, and it's hard to copy something that they can't see. So Einstein was credited for inventing relativity and discovering it. But he said, no, I didn't discover relativity. Like I solved it, but people were studying this before I was born. I didn't make up the concept. I just focused on nothing but this for a decade. And I find that that's my edge in the family office space, is that I've been focusing on this for 18 years consistently, and focusing on something at a high level for a long time is rare. People don't want to have that extreme focus. And so figuring out for you, where should your extreme focus be played? Where can you be competing against others, but zero others in that sub-niche that you're in, or 1 to 3 people? And if you don't have a good grasp on where your biggest strengths are, this is the best workbook I've ever done in my life. I think it's like $28. It's worth like $28,000. But it's from Dan Sullivan's group at Strategic Coach. And essentially, you go through this, it makes you do a strengths finder, which probably 20% of you guys have done. But then it makes you analyze yourself, have your friends and family, employees, business partners analyze you as well, and answers a few questions on you. You then answer questions about what you like to do, don't like to do, are amazing at, what makes you all your money in your business. And then you narrow down your exact unique ability. And then you can say yes to things that match it, you say no to things that don't. So my unique ability is crafting a specific position that systematically attracts pre-qualified leads to me. That's why we own billionaires.com. That's why we have Family Office Club. That's why we have the digital assets funnel. And this allows you to say no to things instantly and ignore almost everyone else's advice on planet Earth about what you should do, because they have not done this workbook on you, right? So they have no idea what you should do, really, right? One thing all of you could accomplish, because it might seem like unrealistic, like, oh, how am I supposed to have like a monopoly in this massive industry? Okay, well, in any industry, it might be massive, but maybe the one sliver of it is not, and it's very profitable. Or maybe it's a massive industry, but you're just doing self-storage in San Diego, or just La Jolla, or you're doing, some sort of medical practice, but you're focused only on Texas, etc. So our industry is horrible at positioning, branding, coming up with names for things. It's usually Wilson Capital, XYZ Capital, or Greek god that no one asks the name of capital. And many times I'll ask, what is the meaning of your company? And then to some random, creative, stylistic name. And then I forget, like, the next time I see them. And now I have no idea what their company does again. So people try to act like it's a mystery novel, trying to figure out what you do. It's the opposite of clarity multiplies action. You're just creating friction, and your name should be sweating for you. People should hear what you do, where you do it, and want to work with you. Like, your name should suck people into your company. And for most people, it's the opposite, where it just sits there on the shelf, not sweating for you. If you go to the edge of a lake with a spear, you can try to get a fish going by. But if you spend the time analyzing the lake and see where the fish are flowing to, you can position yourself at the waterfall, and the leads will jump towards you. That's why I run Family Office Club, and I'd encourage you to figure out, how do you have a positioning monopoly so nobody else has the position in your sub-niche of your industry that you do. And by the way, everyone hates this idea. No one wants to rebrand. I think when Pierre's firm rebranded, they were at $8 billion in assets. They're now at $150 billion in assets. Didn't slow them down. They had 500 plus clients. And what I always hear is, oh, well, I already have an $8 domain name and I made these $22 of business cards from Vistaprint, so we can't change our brand. That's ridiculous, right? They're like, I was like, okay, it's good for you that nobody wants to do this because it works and it helps. And I think they had a 3-letter brand name and then changed it to something that had a real meaning, if I'm not mistaken. So I love that story. I always use Pierre as an example. So I'm glad he's actually here today. This is a concept I'm not going to go deep on. So we have many times we've been to our events. There's a 70-minute webinar on this in our portal. You can get this book on Audible, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. There's a whole chapter on choke points. And then we have an AI tool that we've done deep research on all different choke point examples and strategies and case studies. And basically a choke point is, once you acquire it, it's hard or impossible for somebody else to. It gives you momentum, it gives you either deal flow or investors or capital. And what you can do is put this in voice mode or record an audio note to it or upload your pitch deck first and send it a webinar on you, whatever context you want to give it, or just say what industry you're in and say, help me think of choke points. Help me think of strategic choke points I can acquire that cost nothing. And it will give you a whole bunch of ideas. This strategy alone has brought our company many millions of dollars. And it's probably one of the top 5 things that the more times you think about it, the more money this idea will make you. So we could probably do a full day workshop just on choke points one day. I got to interview Brian Tracy several times, which was great. He's pretty amazing, and he's authored over 80 books. And he told me that the most important thing after writing so many books is what you title the book. Like, if you title your book, like one of my friends in real estate titled his book, Dancing in the Rain. And it's a good book, but no one knows if they should read it based on the book title. The subtitle probably is amazing and draws people in. But Brian said people that hire him and pay him millions of dollars just based on the title of the book. If someone actually reads your book, they should love you to death, even way more than just by reading the title, of course, right? It should have genuine meat behind it. But his point was spend an inordinate amount of time on the title, because otherwise nothing else matters. So if people don't open the subject line of your email, who cares if you wrote an amazing email, right? If they don't read the one-liner in your company, they might not open the one-pager. If your one-pager is horrible, they might not open your pitch deck. So it all rolls up to name of company, one-liner, otherwise everything else gets lost. You're not doing yourself justice. Picture of John here. If he's not in the room yet, he's driving here now from the airport. He'll be on stage later today. He manages over $900 million. He's going to tell us all how he did that, how he's grown things from the start. The founder of Paychex took $5,000 and turned it into $5 billion. And the name Paychex helped him so much. He said he will not give anyone a dollar if they're so stubborn and unopen to coaching that they can't realize changing the name of your company so it sucks energy into your company is an amazing thing to do that costs almost nothing. He will not give you $1 money if you won't do that. It's like the easiest leverage on planet Earth. So we're not even having a conversation if you're not open to fixing your brain. Peter Thiel says there's an aesthetic to these things. PayPal, it seems like people want to be your friend. Napster, it seems like I just kidnapped your kid, right? He said Uber, it sounds like a name from the 1930s in Germany. And like, what are you above, by the way, the law? Should I just regulate you to death as soon as you start, right? So, and Peter said, I feel very strongly about this. It's not like some passing comment. He's like, this is one of the most important things. So you can have a brand like Iron Toro Capital. And I promise you, I asked them, what does that brand mean? Where's the bull? And they told me, and I tried to listen, tried to remember. I have no idea what the brand means. And I asked. Most people won't ask, right? Instead, motel to market conversions, pretty clear what they do, right? Okay, it's a longer name. It's not monster.com, but unless you spend $1 billion branding monster.com, no one has any clue what you're trying to do there. So I like names that are simple. Not surprisingly, we have an AI tool for this called the product naming tool. It's free with membership. And basically you can say, this is what I'm doing. Here's my deck. What should we name our next fund? What should we name this product? And it will come up with names like Strategic Self-Storage Partners or Austin Self-Storage, or just simple names that don't confuse the heck out of everybody you try to ever interact with. So that I think is important and ridiculously simple. 99% of our club members get this page wrong. What's most important about this page, though, even if you mess up 2 through 6, is to do something so unique that when people hear it, they lean forward and they say, wow, that is really unique. And we had Chip Perkins on stage yesterday. He's raised $7.5 billion of capital for different clients. And he was able to come up and say, we are representing a product that I've never seen before. And right away, everyone leans forward after raising $7.5 billion. And he phrases it like that. That should be your goal after talking to any investor if you're here trying to pitch something or pitch your company to someone, they should say, I've never heard anyone doing that before. That's more focused than everyone else. And then he said, in a very simple one sentence, oh, well, this company basically invests in treasuries. They have it secured over here. Then they have an option strategy, and they just pay out 7% change to the investor, and there's zero fees. And you're in a secured account that pays out 7% plus with no fees. And he's like, it's as simple as that. He was able to explain it simply. It was super unique. So you should be that unique that you get the attention of someone that credible. And the rest of these things are relatively easy. There's no excuse to not have every single person in this room have 2 through 6 in place if you're looking to engage with others on what you're doing. Because nowadays with our AI tools, they are your assistant with all of these. So you should have a one-line capital raising pitch. We have an AI tool called the one-line pitch tool. You should have a 1-minute video of you as the founder on your website, on your one pager, in your pitch deck. And if you have your own family office and you're trying to attract deal flow, you should be seeing some deals first exclusively and at a better valuation. But you won't do that if you don't show how you're a strategic investor. And then the people who need capital, they want to go to people that can help the company go like this and help play defense when they need to. So even family offices should have this to maximize their deal flow. The other thing is have a 1-page pitch, not just a pitch deck, and then have a short pitch deck that's 10 to 15 pages long, 19 at most. A goldfish has an attention span of 7 seconds. The average human does not have that anymore. And with AI and distractions all the time, everyone's more distracted. The wealthier you are, the more you have going on. So people will move on instantly. I asked Meta World Peace from the LA Lakers on Monday, what emails get through your inbox so that you reply to them cold? He said, nothing. Nothing at all. He doesn't know if it's a phishing attack, if it's a fake email, if it's not really Mark Cuban. He said, maybe on LinkedIn or Instagram, I'll look at who they are, but otherwise nothing gets through on a cold email. So that just shows it's not only about attention, it's also trust, right? The other thing that most people don't have is a data room. And then what are the top 30 questions every sophisticated investor should ask you about your exact strategy, your exact risk? You should have 30 questions written out and 30 answers written out. And if you upload your pitch deck, your PPM, a webinar on your strategy, some emails to our Dewey Instant Due Diligence Advisor tool, it will script out the 30 questions investors should be asking you. And if you're an investor, you can use that to get 30 questions. But it will list out both the questions and the answers to all 30 questions. And then usually the answers are a little bit thin. So I have to go back and say, make them a little bit more robust and meaty. Don't make them super lengthy, but give me moderate length, full answers to all 30 questions. And then use your human brain to actually read them all, enhance a few, check with compliance before you start sending stuff out to investors. And then that is something that can be massively helpful. We had someone at our event yesterday who said that because they had this process in place, they went to 3 investors and one of them invested. And he said, I've raised capital a long time. That never happens. I have to go to like 10, 15, 20, 30 investors sometimes to get one closed. And he said everything was just super buttoned up. And that was massively helpful. So when we have people raise their hands on this, it's usually 1 to 3 people in a room have it in place. But if you're following our advice, you're playing a game of Monopoly in 1% hands, then you should only have 1 to 5 competitors to begin with. 0 of them are going to have this in place. And this costs you $0 to put into place. I have to hire someone to edit the video. The rest of the stuff you can just do tomorrow. You can say, I'm going to take the day, put all that in place in one day. Done. So there's no reason not to these days. Mark Andreessen from Silicon Valley talks about preferential attachment, like credibility effect. If he backs you, or if a publicly traded company backs you, or a family office that made $400 million in your industry backs you, it makes it more inevitable you're going to be successful. More resources come to you, more distribution channels open, more strategic choke points to be acquired. There's like a real halo effect around what you're doing. And if you play the game of Monopoly, you're more likely to attract big partners because then they have great clarity. They're more likely to take action. So that's important. We're going to go to Mitzi in just 1 second, but one thing that my CTO is getting live on our website right now is this new membership option that we are doing that involves having a background shut down on yourself. And if your lawyer's okay with it, you can put that background check in your data room or mark out the one thing that's too sensitive or something that reveals something that would invade privacy. But you can have the background check, you get a verified check mark on your name badge. We're probably put like a red or a big blue box around your name badge as well, maybe a blue lanyard instead of white. so that when people come to our events, they know which members have been background checked, and they're very, very likely who they say they are, right? There's still ways to trick us, I'm sure. But basically, it's one more level of credibility. We help you with your one-liner. My team will edit the video, so your 1-minute video is done at the same quality level of my own work. You get $12,000 of sponsorship exposure at our events. I'll get on WhatsApp with you on audio notes, text, and we'll talk about your deal structure. I'll suggest a few ways that maybe things could move faster, the different structure. And then we want long-term all of our sponsors to be at the Deca Millionaire Council level, because it just de-risks the experience of investors. Our sponsors on stage have been background checked, due diligence checked on that very, very basic level. So we give 30% off on future sponsorships. And if you buy that this week, we'll give you 14 months instead of the 12 months membership. You also get 3 guest tickets per year, 1 max per event. So you can bring a friend to the Super Summit, bring a colleague, a business partner, etc. And that is $10,000. If you want to talk to Daphne or Jennifer at the end of the day or at lunchtime, we'd love for you to be one of the first 5 members that are coming in this week to hear from in one morning. This afternoon, we've got another Centimillionaire Strategies talk. So I'm looking forward to that from Yaya. And so I took some notes here that are related to what Pierre was talking about, and like, why are you really doing this? Like, what's the whole point of going around and collecting money? Just to pass on the money to spoil all your kids so they're not motivated to work? Like, how you do it's important, the timing of it, and just really knowing yourself. Like, why are you doing it? Personally, I believe in karma fully. If you do a bunch of good things that help people, it's probably going to all come back around. I'm not 100% sold on reincarnation, so that's why I live in Hawaii right now. But also, I think that what John was talking about, like personality of the person, the trust, the confidence, is sometimes the difference maker of whether you go out of business or not. We had a billionaire on stage with us yesterday, Pavan. He has 86 different mortgage offices across the U.S., one of the top 10 mortgage companies in the United States. His AI company was valued at over $100 billion. And he said that at a couple points, they needed help and somebody could have called loans on them. And it was someone like John that sat down with them, didn't call the loan, saw them through, and they made it to the other side. We did a distressed deal recently where we knew the hard money lender. We went to them and said, look, we're taking $1.2 million of our own capital to recapitalize this. We can pay you the $540K that was due last month after the third failed sale of the asset, but we don't have the money to pay you the $740. And they took the $540, and then we were able to move forward and recapitalize the company. And we have other people in our club who have had to fly to New York and call the office of a lender. And they say, no, we don't take meetings. We don't take appeals. Sorry, we're foreclosing. They flew to New York anyways, went to the office in person, sat in the lobby and said, we'll wait till he has 5 minutes. We say 5 minutes at a time. They met with them, showed them the plan. They're very well prepared, met with them for an hour. They gave them an extension on their loan, didn't foreclose on them. It's like meeting in person and relationships is sometimes a thing that will make you or that will save you. And we're going to talk later about how to be better about that on purpose. After lunch, we're going to talk about family office negotiation strategies, deal structures. We're going to talk about moving high velocity. The best use of your time is investing time and to figure out how to save 100 hours this year of your time or 100 hours next year. We're going to talk about how to be 1 out of 1,000. And I think you're going to love the content after lunch. We have about 50% of the content left. So appreciate you spending your time with us here today.